Okay, so let's look at the reverse parallel park. This is one of the manoeuvres that you could be asked to do on the driving test, and commonly I get asked questions about this particular manoeuvre and how to do it, and this is what we're looking to achieve at doing. There's two different types here. The first one is just reverse parallel parking behind the parked car within 2 car lengths. That's what you get on the test standard, on the driving test. Or the second way here is where this is more like real life, where you're parking in between 2 parked cars. And in that one there, you can see you've got 2 car lengths there, but I mean, sometimes you might only have one in real life. So, but let's concentrate on this, because this is what the driving test standard is, the required standard is. Generally, if you can make sure that you are consistently doing your practicing, you're doing your practicing in a consistent manner, a structure to the way that you're doing it. In other words, it's like a lot of things. When if you start trying, when you're learning to do something, if you keep doing it differently, then it can become really, really frustrating because you're getting different results. So let's split that manoeuvre up into 4 stages. That would be my advice. There's 4 stages to this manoeuvre. The Driving Standards Agency, the examiner on test, will pull you up behind the car. So they control that element, how close you are to that car, and they'll pull you up there, and then they'll say to you, okay, can you pull up alongside that car, that parked car, and do a reverse parallel park, finishing off within 2 car lengths behind it, relatively close to the curb, preferably not touching it. So that's the starting point. So here we go, look, this is the first stage. Get into that bit there, boom. Then straight reversing to your level with the car, that's 2. Then the bit of steering to go towards the curb, that's 3. And then you bring in the front end, and that's 4. So there's 4 stages to this manoeuvre, and there's loads of different ways that I've seen and heard driving instructors saying how to do this. But let me just go over the real sort of nuts and bolts of what you're after, what you're aiming to achieve. When you're coming up, you don't want to set this up wrong. It's like any of the manoeuvres actually, you don't want to set this manoeuvre up wrong, because then that's really puts you on shaky foundations to begin with. So what do I mean by that is you're pulling up just past the parked car, pulling up alongside it just past the parked car, but you're parallel to the curb on the left hand side, and you shouldn't be able to touch that parked car. If you were sat in the passenger seat, you shouldn't be able to actually touch it. So within about 1 metre of the parked car. Too far the other way, you start encroaching onto the other side of the road, or too close to the parked car, and it starts getting very, very tricky to be able to do. So about 1 metre away. How far forward? About 1 metre, about 2 metres. Again, there's things you can line up with the car, but about 1 metre or 2 in front of it, because this is the key bit. Once you've got to that bit, you put the handbrake on or not, it's up to you. You put it into reverse gear straight away, so that people behind and everyone knows, oh, they see the white lights, oh, he or she's about to start reversing. And then you then do straight reversing until you're level with the parked car. Again, lots of different ways of doing that, and everyone's different and everyone likes their own ways of doing it, but let's not get hung up on that detail just a moment. Point is, for this bit, we want to be able to pull up alongside the parked car. We don't want to be going too far backwards, we don't want to be still too far in front of the parked car, we want to be level with it, and that's the point of turn. That is the point at which you need to pause, because you are about to start turning in towards that curb. Remember on that diagram? So pause at that point and do some very good observations, because before you start steering and bringing the car, because you are actually manoeuvring the car now behind a parked car, you need to make sure it's safe to do that, to do so. So really good observations all around. Once you've done that, start steering towards the curb. Generally speaking, if you want the car to go towards the curb, you steer towards the curb, and that works forwards or in reverse. You steer towards the curb, and then now you'll find you are going towards the curb. Now, how far do you need to go with that? How much steering do I need to put on, Tom? When do I know when I need to start straightening the steering wheel again? This all comes with practice, and there are different techniques that you can use. There are markers in the car when you're first starting this. There are markers that you can use to actually identify the point at which you need to either stop steering or do some more steering, and they can help you to begin with. This is about the consistency thing I was talking about. When you're first starting off, give yourself half a chance to do things the same way as you're practicing it, the same pace, the same slow pace, the same amount of steering. How do I know how much steering to put on? I know some people talk about one steer this way, one steer that way. The only problem when you concentrate on steer on that is that your mind is concentrating on one, or which way was it, and meanwhile you're going backwards. So if we're going backwards, we need to be paying a lot of attention behind us. So there's lots of different ways of doing that. But anyway, you're going towards the curb, and there comes a point at which, and you can identify this through various means, the near side mirror, as well as looking over your left shoulder, looking out the rear windscreen. There comes a point at which you then need to bring the front end back in again. Now that's going to require different steering, and again that just needs time to pause, just think about what do I need to do, make sure that you do the observation, make sure it's safe, and then you bring it back in again, the car back in behind a parked car. So really, if there's one thing to get out of this video, it is, don't think that there has to be a rigid way to do these things, because there really doesn't. The amount of steering that you put on, the angle at which you come in, is going to be dependent on whether you have the luxury of no cars behind you, or if you only have one car. If you have car behind you with only one car length between the two, then that might affect the angle at which you come in, you see. So this isn't about having a sort of a rigid black and white, this is how I must do this. It's about having the opportunity to experiment with your options about how to do it, and find a way that works for you. Because once you start seeing that, oh right, yeah, I now realise if I do this and I do that again, and I can now get the same result. That's great. That is, you're now building blocks. You're getting some progress, and I've found that it really doesn't matter what technique, how you do this, as long as you do it safely and consistently, with due regard to other road users, and you've got the accuracy there, then you're ticking all those boxes, aren't you? And then that will work for you, and you'd be able to apply that. Let's get beyond the test standard. You'd be able to apply that when you're driving around normally. So quite a key thing. If there's any questions about this, don't hesitate to bung them up on the down below there, or next time I see you, then just mention any questions at all. And this is the reverse parallel park manoeuvre, one of the 4 or 5 that you might be asked to do on the test.